government is going to really be active on, and the legislature especially has taken that position. As you know, we've hired the law firm of Covington and Bryant. It's a Washington, D.C. firm where Eric Holder is a principal there. He spoke at we have a Senate Democratic Caucus, that's not a retreat, it's like a retreat, a symposium, a conference, where we got together for 2 days, and Eric Holder was there, and we really talked about what we're prioritizing, because frankly, we have to prioritize our defense as well. We can't fight them on everything, and we have to pick and choose. And so we're looking at those major issues that really challenge the values of California and our constitutional values to do that. And speaking of that is the budget. As you know, the governor proposed his budget initially in January, but we have now the May revise, which will reflect a lot of the changes we're seeing in Washington as he gives us a new budget to see that and then to take some actions on. I do think that we'll see changes there that will reflect some of the changes we're seeing in Washington and try to do it. The governor feels that we are going to be in a recession sooner than the legislature feels, or the legislative analyst office feels as well. He's projecting revenue decreasing in the next year or two. He does that every year because, as we know, he's cheap and doesn't want to spend money. So, but I agree with them. We have to be very, very careful. We're putting money into reserves. We have the rainy day fund as well as the reserve in the budget, and it's about $10 billion now. Which will help us when we know there will be a downturn eventually, and so we have to prepare for that. So that's being established now too. I wanted to mention, and it was brought up about the PG&E bills that you've received in the last couple of months and how high many of them are. And there is a reason for that, and it's and as I've said before, if PG&E makes a mistake or does something wrong, I'm the first one to point it out. But in this case, they really didn't. With regards to the initial billing that you received, there are a couple of things that have caused it. One, the cold weather that we've had already, that we've seen in the last couple of months, that caused an increase in your usage. But the price of natural gas, because it's a commodity and it's paid for just as any other commodity is, it has gone up about 10%, 10 to 20%. And what we've seen also, because the structure is factored in, your rates in the winter months are determined by taking November through March, and your 70% of your usage becomes, this is aggregate over the whole area, or this area, it's done by geographic zones. They take 70% of your usage, and that is the cap or the top of Tier 1. So when you use your gas, you go to Tier 1, you're paying a certain amount per therm of natural gas. The minute you cross that line, you're paying 40% more.
Margin.
Pardon me?
On the margin.
On the margin. Anything above, you're paying 40% more for every bit of gas you use above that. What we were able to find in my office as we analyzed those gas bills that people had sent us, is that because they take November and March, think of November or think of March, we've had some very nice warm weather. That has artificially lowered the cap on Tier 1. So when you get you're jumping into Tier 2 a lot sooner than you should, because we've got 70-degree weather in March that has lowered it. So we're recommending, and the PUC agrees, that they remove November and March from that factoring system, and it works. And that was a major cause for a lot of people as to why it went up. And that was determined by the PUC, not by PG&E. The other thing, though, is it could be that we found actually late last week, or late this week, Thursday, was in analyzing the bills, because some people didn't fit into that. But what we found was that some people who do not have smart meters, so if you do not have a smart meter on your gas, or you've opted out because you can do that, what happens is your meter only gets read every 2 months. So they estimate your usage. So what happens, you used a lot of gas in January because it was so cold. but they don't bill you. They don't bill you until March. But when they do send you the bill, they will estimate what the same usage you had in January for February. So you will pay twice as much. The concern we have, and we're going to be investigating this, is if that artificially, again, puts you into tier 2 for gas you didn't use, because they estimated in there, and do they recover that? So we're working on that, but so we're trying to find, but there is, we did pay a lot more. A couple local issues, and then I'll take your questions. Caltrain electrification, as you know, that's a major issue, and in the budget too, we're working on, Senator Bell has a bill that we're trying to get. It'd be an urgency bill that would add to the gas tax, also add a fee for electric vehicles who do not pay a road tax today. The idea is to get about $5 to $6 billion additionally each year that we will use for public transit, regional transit, but most importantly to fix those potholes. So I want to see how many hit the most potholes getting here this morning. I'm sure I know it. I got a good one on 101 coming up. So that will help tremendously, and we need that, about $60 billion over the next 10 years to do it. We also have the challenge, as you know, of water. This winter, just a little too much of it. And that has presented some problems with the dams, the Oroville Dam, as you keep reading about, and the challenge there. The difficulty with that, getting back to our budget, is that's going to take a lot of money to fix that, as well as all of the other water infrastructures we have around the state that now we've been highlighting the fact that we've neglected that infrastructure over many years, which is to it. Wanted to use so many cards. Let me just. I wanted to highlight a couple of the bills that we have this year that we've introduced that I think are one is related to marijuana. That we have actually two bills related to marijuana. One in the initiative that was passed by the voters in November. There was something left out of that bill. It allowed you to, if you are driving, you could smoke marijuana or eat marijuana edible and continue to drive. So our bill says you can't drink, you can't smoke and drive, just as you can't drink and drive. So we do that. But another bill that I had been a number of years been working and really fighting against drunk driving with legislation. Last year we were successful. In 2 years, when it rolls out, if you are convicted of a DUI, you will have to have an ignition interlock device installed in your car, which would require you to blow into it before your car will start. That will go into effect, but there's right now the challenge is law enforcement has no way of determining whether your impairment is, if you are driving impaired based on your swerving, the roadside sobriety check they give you. There's no way to determine if you don't have a blood alcohol of 0.08 and you've been smoking marijuana, there's no way, or taking other drugs, there's no way to know quantitatively what level of that drug impairs you. So they can't test for that now. They're working on it, they're coming up with something, but they haven't developed that test yet. Colorado, we had a hearing a couple of weeks ago. I chaired the Committee on Business and Professions in the Senate, which is the committee that oversees the Department of Consumer Affairs, which is the department that is establishing the regulatory environment for the sale of cannabis in California. And so one of the issues we had, the governor of Colorado was there, since they've been doing it for many years, and he had a couple of, I thought, significant issues. One is that what he was surprised at, and we've now taken action to make sure, is after the fact in Colorado, he saw all of these edibles, marijuana edibles, that looked like candy. They looked like candy. It looked as if they were being marketed to children. So he put an end to that, and we're going to put an end before it starts on that. Mm-hmm. The other one is in Colorado, they established a number. If you had 5 nanograms of marijuana in your system, and there's a type of marijuana, or the 5 nanograms of delta 9, I think it is, THC. If you have that amount in your system, Colorado says you are impaired and you will be arrested for impaired driving or driving under the influence. That won't work in California because there's no way to establish that 5 nanograms is an imperable quantity. So what we did though in the bill I have, based on the fact that in California now more people are dying on the road from drugged and drinking, so they have both drugs and alcohol in their system than just alcohol. So more people are drinking and doing something than just drinking and causing the deaths. So the bill I have says if you have a 0.04 of alcohol, so if you have 0.04 and you have 5 nanograms of delta 9 THC, or any other drug in your system, you are impaired based on that fact, because you would have to be with the 0.04 and it doesn't take much more of the drug. So that bill will work its way through the legislature and we'll see what happens. Another bill that I'm just to highlight real quickly and then I'll stop, that we actually, and just people say government doesn't work fast or we can't work quickly. I was called 3 days ago by a constituent in Los Altos, 16-year-old girl who is in high school, and she was talking about what she had heard of and knew of a child that was 12 years old, who was engaged to be married next year to a 14-year-old boy. And so that doesn't make sense. How could that happen in California? But it actually can, and it is legal. This is an arranged marriage that the girl it looks like is a citizen of the United States, but all you need is your parents' permission, and a judge makes that determination and does not have a lot of discretion in it because there's none established as to what you could do. The parents' permission is the one. So that's wrong. I mean, there's no way to make it right or to look at it in a right way. So, I mean, and when you look at the statistics, and I don't have to go into them about what happens to girls the violence that they experience is 3 times more, the divorce rate is 80 to 90%. I mean, there's nothing good that can come out of that relationship. And so we initially wrote, we actually had to, what they call gut and amend the bill that we had because it's too late to author new legislation. So we took a bill that we had, took the stuff out of it, and put this language into it, and we put it over the desk yesterday. And so that will be a bill this year that we will, to make the age 18. You want to get married in California, you have to be 18. And we have no exemptions in the bill. We may have to take some as it moves forward. New York State last year had a similar problem, similar legislation to try to correct it because they had the same circumstances there. Last year their bill had said you had to be 18 to be married, and it did not pass the legislature, so they're coming back this year with some modifications. I mean, we were thinking of some exemptions, but we thought as the bill plays out, there may be some that would be, one state is saying if you are an emancipated youth, that you should be able to get married since you already have those rights. So we may have to take those into consideration as the bill goes forward. So I just want to share those few with you, and I'm happy to take your many questions.